It's Monday, which means it's time for our weekly box office report, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theatres. Back in the number one position in its fourth week of release is the Matt Damon film The Martian. The film took back the number one spot with $15.9 million and dropping just 25% from the previous weekend. In the number two spot is the Jack Black film Goosebumps, making an additional $15.5 million and dropping only 34% from its opening week. In third place is the Tom Hanks film BRIDGE of SPIES, making $11.3 million and dropping just 26.1% from its opening weekend last week. In fourth spot is The Last Witch Hunter in its first week of release, making just $10.8 million. And rounding out the top five is Hotel Transylvania 2, pulling in an additional $9 million in its fifth week of release. John, what stands out to you about this week's box office report?
Well, first of all, celebration and kudos to The Martian, once again reclaiming the number one spot at the box office, which is appropriate because it is the best movie out in theaters right now. So it's really cool seeing it. Only a 25% drop. As a matter of fact, here's the things that really stand out to me. The first off is the top three movies all had ridiculously small declines from their previous week. As I mentioned, The Martian only dropping 25% from its third week to its fourth week. Goosebumps coming in number two, only dropping 34.4% from its first week, and BRIDGE of SPIES only dropping 26.1% from its first week. Just getting under a 50% drop is considered good. Yeah. Like having your top three movies all do that was pretty impressive. Saw The Last Witch Hunter. A little surprised it came in fourth. A little surprised it only made 10. I knew it was going to make a huge amount of money, and I really agree with Christian. Christian was telling me about it before before I saw it. He said, "Yeah, everybody's saying it's a really bad movie, and it is, but I had fun at it." And I kind of agree. Yes, it was a really bad movie, and there was some fun in it, so I'll give it that. But the second thing that really stands out to me about this week's box office is 4 films opened in wide release. Only one of them even managed to crack the top 5, and that was The Last Witch Hunter coming in fourth. Paranormal Activity, Ghost Dimension made $8-point-something million. You know what? They made it probably for $4 million. So that's fine. They're not losing any sleep, only making $8 million. That's fine. But Rock the Casbah, Bruce Willis, Bill Murray, Kate Hudson, Zooey Deschanel, opening week in over 2,000 theaters, made $1.5 million, which has to start. Look, I'm sorry, guys. It has to make us beg the question, does anybody care about Bill Murray movies anymore? Because if you look back at the last 4 or 5, like that one St. Vincent is his big hit, and it in total made $45 million. Not just opening weekend, in total. We have to ask the question, if anybody cares about Bill Murray movies, it made $1.5 million. And I'm telling you right now, that would be the story of the day if it wasn't for Gem and the Holograms. Which opened in over 2,400 screens and made $1.3 million, coming in 15th place in its opening weekend. So, I mean, some really great things on this weekend's box office report, some really terribly disturbing things in this week's box office report. Anyway, Schnepp, you had a look at it. What stands out to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned it, Gem and the Holograms. I mean, we'd been cracking about it since we first saw the first trailer. It looked horrible.
Terrible.
It looked like a
trailer.
bad movie. So I never expected it to make box office gold, but I didn't think it was going to take this big of a dump. I mean, Rock the Casbah is the big disappointment for me. And, you know, I don't know. I don't think it's Bill Murray. I just think it's the overall, the trailer, the story about, like, the story itself didn't really push me to want to go see it when I saw the trailer.
And it's terrible. That doesn't help.
And also, that everything, like Rotten Tomatoes 8% or something, everybody hated it. So that definitely, even if you're like, look, I love Bill Murray, it's a weird story, maybe I'll go see it, but now everybody says it sucks. So it gets crossed off the list. I want to go see Chronicles of Riddick 2, I mean the Witch Hunter thing, because that just sounds exactly that's like the Vin Diesel movie that I like. It's like a guilty pleasure. It's like weird D&D, freakish witches and strange, bad, horrible storylines, some good CGI, some horrible. It feels like, when I saw the trailer, that's what it feels like. That's what Christian
I like
said.
the CGI, actually. I thought the CGI was quite good.
Well, even better.
A lot of people rail on it, but I thought it was all right.
I haven't seen it, but I am actually looking forward to seeing that. I'm glad that enough people went out there to be like, I want to go see The Witch Hunter, you know, knowing it's going to probably suck, but not on a Seventh Son level suck. It's just going to be like a Chronicles of Riddick, weird, like Dune, kind of like borrow a bunch from everything and kind of throw it together. And like, so that's what it seems like to me. So I'm looking forward to that film.
Yeah,
Mark?
Christian and I were both walking out of The Last Witch Hunter, and we said, you know what? It wasn't a good movie, but I wouldn't hate seeing another few of these movies. Unfortunately, with only $10 million opening weekend, it probably is The Last Witch Hunter. But that was a movie that was advertised, and we knew what we were going into. Gem and the Holograms and Rock the Casbah, their advertising campaigns, we had no idea what the movie was. Like, Gem and the Holograms was a property from the 80s that was appealing to young girls today. How are they supposed to know what the hell? I didn't know what the hell Gem and the Holograms was. And it was a story that you could have told in a different way. It's very modern about this girl who gets famous on YouTube. So you could have marketed it like that, but you just chose not to because you were a slave to the property Gem and the Holograms that apparently nobody cares about. The big story to me this week, it's great that The Martian is number one. Again, it's awesome when a good movie wasn't number one and then comes back to being number one.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't happen often.
Goosebumps, The Martian, Bridge of Spies, everybody knows exactly what you're getting into with those movies. Those had good ad campaigns. But the story this week to me, I think Star Wars The Force Awakens made more money than any of these movies did.
It's
right?
true. It's absolutely
That's
true.
I've been searching online, and somebody please tweet us. Let us know exactly what the number is to this date. I know that on IMAX screens, it made in one day $6.5 million just on IMAX tickets.
And the previous record was like 1.3 million.
Oh,
in
yeah,
one day.
and it's
It was, like,
shattering.
shattering.
I mean, it broke the internet, and I'm sure you guys talked about it in Movie Talk when I wasn't here last week, but that's the story to me, is that crushed everything else at the box office that was actually playing in theaters.
And the thing about, I mean, it's hard to not talk about this Gem and the Holograms thing.
No, let's.
Because it's like, here's the thing, it's like they're sitting around a board and say, okay, let's make a really crappy movie. But then somebody says, okay, I'm on board, but only if we completely screw over the original source material as well and make it nothing like the original cartoon. Done, they say. I mean, if you're gonna make it terrible, at least do like Gem and the Holograms, this girl's supposed to be transformed by this computer and all this guy. They did none of that. They totally.
Yep.
So do one or the other. Either make it good and take tons of liberties with the source material, or make it totally shitty and be faithful to the source material. Do one of the two.
Right.
But they went for both crappy options, and
So they killed like any of the people who love the animated series, and it does have like a cult status.
they were so mad before the movie even came out.
Yeah, because where's Synergy? Where are all the other bands? It's like they made an effort to not make it like the cartoon, and then give it a really low budget and basically make it like an after school special. So I don't really understand. I don't get it. It's kind of like I scratch my head like, well, you have all these other cartoons that you put like $50 million into, $100 million into. Here's a cartoon that you don't even use the source material and only budgeted at $5 million.
So why even
It's
base it
weird.
off of that at all?
I
Like,
don't
why
get
not
it.
just say inspired by that, then call it something else? Like, this is like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., you know, because like that was based on a TV show that not a lot of people had heard of in the modern day. Same with Gem and the Holograms, even though it's more recent. Like, just call it something else and make the movie about that. It's just there's this machine that people that everybody at studios they enter in all these factors, and like then it's going to tell them how much money this movie is going to make based on that. I don't know what happened with the machine this time.
Yeah, hey, idiots, I got an idea for you. She-Ra, make a brand new movie. She works at a burger joint. That's it. It's She-Ra. And that's the movie.
Well, that's kind of what they did with Halle Berry's Catwoman.
Pretty much.
And also, I think it highlights the fact you cannot underestimate the destructive power of a bad first trailer. Because that we talked for days about that first trailer. It's like, look, I have no idea how this movie's going to do, or this is going back months. I have no idea how this is going to do, or what it's ultimately going to be. But this is one of the worst trailers I'd ever seen, and they were never able to recover from that. I never for a week, never for a day did I hear any or feel any positive buzz about the film after that first horrendously awful trailer.
And that trailer was just like the "We Are Not Friends," whatever that thing was, and it's the storyline. Your friends.
Yeah.
Storyline's the same,
Same
and also
storyline.
bombed almost as hard. I don't know which one bombed worse. in box
Also,
office.
that movie was a lot scarier than Paranormal Activity, that Ghost Dimension. But like, I think that is a disappointing take for. I don't think Paranormal Activity is happy with that haul at all, because when you're a Paranormal Activity movie, you're banking on opening weekend numbers. That's it. Now, it is interesting that we do have Halloween coming up this weekend, so maybe people go see that. Maybe Goosebumps stays in the top 5 because it's Halloween. Very interested to see if they greenlight any more Paranormal Activity movies, because $8 million, it should have done a lot more. I saw the movie. It's not good, but it's a Paranormal Activity movie. It's around Halloween. You expect it to do at least $10 million.
The other thing we'd be remiss if we didn't mention is that Steve Jobs also went right. Now, it opened in limited release, very limited release last week. It went full wide this week. Came in 11th place, only made 7.2. Now, none of us were expecting Steve Jobs to make $25 million opening. That's just not the type of numbers these types of movies do. But I think Universal has to consider 7.2 million on its wide release. Now, still under 10 million, about 9-something million in its 1.5 week, let's call it that, opening. They got to consider that a disappointment.
Those American Sniper thing, like everybody's like, oh, American Sniper, this is how you open a movie. You do limited release and build buzz, then it'll go wide and explode. It doesn't usually happen like that. And Steve Jobs is an indication of that. I think Steve Jobs is going to hold well, though. Yeah. I think over the next few weeks, people are going to realize because it's a great movie. It's getting good word of mouth, and not a lot of people were aware that it was expanding into theaters this weekend. You don't see a whole lot of advertisement for it. So now that people are it's more in their consciousness that you can go see this movie at your local theater, I think it'll continue to be at least in the top 10 for a few weeks.
I agree. I think it'll slowly build because of word of mouth. More people. Like I just saw it this weekend, and I thought that all the performances were fantastic. Every single part of the movie was great. It's really well written, well directed. So it'll have that buzz, and as it gets closer to Oscars, I think a lot of the people in that will get nominated, so it'll stick around longer than any of these other movies.
Yeah, but he never formed a band with teenage girls. That really disappointed
Well,
me.
because he tried building the big black cube next instead of Synergy. If he built Synergy, then everything would have happened.
Now, many people know that was the original name of the next device.
That's right.
Just gonna say.
Yeah, well, it's Jobs and the Holograms. That's the brand new
Jobs and the holograms. Somebody make that poster for us. Jobs and the holograms.